Hello, welcome back everyone. So today what we'll be doing is the toothpick sequence. We'll be doing a visualization of it. Hopefully it shouldn't take us too long. I've done this once before, a couple of years back. So let me go on the whiteboard. This is the Wikipedia page on the right. I'll go on the whiteboard, explain the base concept of it. All right. So concept is that we have a toothpick, right? So toothpick. All right. So the toothpick is basically just a bar with a given length, right? So it has a length, GTH. It has some, or instead of length, it could have like, I mean, it does have a length, but it has like an, let's say V1 for vertex 1 and V2 for vertex 2, right? So V1, V2, those will be vertices, XY. Length will be, well, technically the length we could just calculate it every time, but I think I'll just calculate the length from the constructor. So we'll make toothpick a class and we'll calculate the length whenever we pass the V1, V2. So the goal here is to have two sides, right? V1, V2. So we'll have, let's say, first and last. Let's say this is the first here, and the last is at the bottom. Let me erase V1, V2 as well. So last is over here, first is over here. First and last should be, let's say, null by default. And then what we'll need to do is on each iteration, we'll need to generate, so we'll need to call some type of generate method, which will generate the first and last. And first and last are basically going to be two new toothpicks, right? So give me one second, I just need to validate on the Wikipedia page. Yes, okay, great. So when we call generate, we need to assign first to a new toothpick where we basically want to take this one, move it over here, and rotate it 90 degrees. So it's looking something like this, right? So we'll need to figure out this point over here and then this point, right? Or vice versa, right? So what we can do for this is just, for example, move to the first point. In this case, since we want first, so we move to the V1, and then we basically take V1, V2. Well, let me think about it. So we could do it multiple ways because last will be here, and then these two are toothpicks, so the next generation they'll be over here, same here, and then next generation they'll be over here, right? Like this, and so on and so forth, right? So that's pretty much a goal, to get first and last, like the two vertices for first, right? This one, and this one, and this one, this one. We could possibly just rotate the toothpick that we have by 90 degrees and then move it. I'm thinking that. And over here, we don't want any first or last, right? So let me quickly think about this. And after over here, let's say we don't want any, because these are going to go up to each other. So we don't want to create any of them over there. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. I just need to take care of something. All right, sorry. So let's take care. So let me remove this. So let's first take care of just creating the toothpicks, right? So we have So we have, let's say instead of first, we just say A because first doesn't mean anything in like depending on the direction. So let's do A and B, right? Okay, so this is A over here and this is B over here, right? Well, A and B will be the new toothpicks we create. So let's say we want to create this one, right? So we want to create a toothpick A, right? So let's say we have this. And the length, we might want to put it like globally because it'll be the same length regardless, right? So this, never mind. So yeah, it'll be the same length for all toothpicks. So it doesn't matter that it can just be global value, right? Okay, so we know we know v1 or let's do a vector or AV for a vector, and let's do BV for B vector. Cool. So we have AV, right, which is this. What we can do in the generate function is just call, let's say, the constructor of the toothpick. So let's think that a toothpick constructor, hopefully, I'll just write it here. So constructor and this constructor will receive an argument. So let me put the parentheses somewhere else, but so open parentheses here, right? So the constructor would receive, let's say, this point, right? This point over here. So this point should be O. Well, it's constructor. Anyway, so we'll receive, let's say, mid, right? So the midpoint. And then this will be X, Y. And we will also receive a direction. So direction will be either, let's say, 1 or 0 or 1 or -1. It doesn't matter. Yeah, let's do, or direction could be just an enum that we use. But let's say 0 or 1, right? Or 1. Okay, great. Well, this doesn't look like much. Anyway, so we'll have the direction be either one value or another, and the midpoint will be a vector. Cool. So we can say here, basically, so we'll need to set the A and B of this one, AAV and BV of this one. So it's basically going to be equal to, let's say, if the direction is 0, that means it's this way. So that means the midpoint is over here. We don't need to change the Y. So we can use the mid dot Y for the direction, and same for the other one. So mid dot Y for the Y. And then the X should be for AV, given that A is this one and B is this one. AV X should be half the current X minus, right, going to the left is minus half the length, right? Or yeah, sure. So mid, yeah, I know this is a bit small, dot X minus, I'll just call half length. And this is the same for this one, though we changed this to a plus. That's pretty much it. That was what I was thinking for the constructor of it. So when we call generate, we can just say A equals equals a new toothpick, sorry, toothpick, passing it our current AV with the direction. And the direction, we basically need to pass it the direction that we are not currently having, right? The other direction, basically. So we could do something simpler, right? Where we have direction be over here somewhere, direction be equal to, I don't know, 1. So instead of 0, we'll do 1 and -1. So direction 1. So we'll do, when we pass it, we want the different direction than the one that we currently have. So we could just pass it direction times -1, right? So it would invert the direction. So in this case, direction would be 1, or we could call it something different. Maybe, yeah, I mean, direction is a good one. So direction is either 1 or -1. let's say 1 is straight and -1 is horizontal, vertical, sorry. So horizontal is 1 and this is -1. Great. And we do the same for B. So B equals the new, I don't like the red color, new toothpick, passing it BV, sorry, B vector, with the direction times equal -1. Well, just times -1, right? So there you go. We have A and B. Great. So now one thing we want to do is to, give me a sec, just thinking about it. Yeah, okay, so let's first implement this. This should create us toothpicks. The only issue is here. Whenever we get to this point, let's say, right? On the third, this is, let's say, on the second generation. So on the third generation, here, this will be here, and this will be here, right? Let's say. And then when we go to create the A, this is fine. But then on the fourth generation, we don't want to create any toothpicks in this area, right? Right? This is wrong. We should not be doing this because this, like, there's no space to create toothpicks over there. So we'll need to eventually figure out a way to know if those are intersecting, right? I'm thinking we could just, whenever we generate, we could only create A, let's say, or B, regardless, only create A if none of the other toothpicks present, AV or BV, intersect with any of the new AV or BV. So we might want to pass AV here, AV and BV of the new toothpick instead of passing just. So we might want to do this not in the constructor, but in here in the generate function, and see if those intersect with the new toothpick we want to create. Right? Or never mind. Regardless what I'm saying here, disregard it. Yeah, because let's say here, this is A, and this is B, V, AV, right? So to know if we create AV here for this one, we can check against every other toothpicks if BV, we can check any other toothpicks that don't have AV and BV, where BV or AV intersect with this AV point. Right. Okay, I think that's right. All right, so let's get started implementing it. Let me change this. Okay, great. And there is also, I will also put it in the description, but there are also a great YouTube video from the Coding Train regarding this topic. I believe he does it the whole way, so I guess we'll be doing something really similar, if not pretty much the same, I guess. So let me start the server over here. Great. Let me go to the index page. Awesome. Okay. So I'm thinking eventually we'll put this in the draw loop, but for right now, let's just put a function mouse pressed, where when that is called, we will just do the next generation, basically. So we'll just have like an array of toothpicks and call generate on all of them, right? So next generation. Great. Okay. So first thing first, we'll have like a lot of toothpicks eventually, right? So we'll want a constant to keep track of all of our toothpicks. Toothpicks over here. There we go. So we'll have an array for that. Great. So now we need to create some type of class, and we'll have the length of the toothpicks over here. So I'll call it length, and we'll set that to maybe, I don't know, let's start with 100, just so that we can actually see it properly. Okay. So we'll have a class toothpick, which will have a constructor, like we said, which will receive the midpoint, which will be p5 vector, which just xy, and also it will receive a direction, right? Or orientation, sure. Orientation, I'm not sure if it's A or E, we'll just see. Oh yeah, it's E. Okay, I'm good. That's fine. Great. So here we said if the orientation is equal to -1, we said -1 is the vertical one. Okay, so here this will be vertical, and else otherwise when it's 1, it'll be horizontal. Great. Okay, and we will set the orientation over here. So this dot orientation equal orientation. Okay, great. We will need also to know if we'll have this dot A equals null, and this dot B equals null as well. So these will be the new toothpicks generated. I guess we don't necessarily need those basically. I'll keep track of them. I'll keep track of them in here. That's fine. We're not we're not doing like best optimization of it right now. It's just prototyping stuff. So we'll just get the stuff working. Okay, so here we'll need, let's say, we'll need the half length all of the time. So I'll just create a variable for the half length, const half length, half length, which will be equal to the length divided by 2. And maybe length is not the best name for it since it's a property in pretty much every object. So let's just call it L just to be short. There we go. Anyway, we'll pretty much only use half length in any case. Okay, so here we'll do this dot AV equal create vector. And we said vertical, we just need to change the, vertical, we just need to change the Y, and horizontal, we just need to change the X, right? So let's do that. This will be BV. And my variable names are not the best. You should go with something better than this, but in any case, it doesn't matter. So create vector, X doesn't change. So mid.x and mid.x as well. Here for the B, it'll be plus, so it'll be mid.x and then mid.y plus half length, right? And then same thing goes for A, but it'll be minus half length. There we go. Okay, I think this is right. So let's also put this here, but here we'll need to change this to X, and we can just remove those and put them at the end. There we go. So here it'll be mid.y, and here mid.y as well. Great. Okay, and now we need to, I believe we have everything we need in the constructor now. Now let's do the generate function. There we go. So now what it'll need to do, so generate. Let's not care about the overlapping toothpicks for right now. Let's just make them and see where we go. So to create A, we need, we just need a new toothpick, passing it the midpoint, which should be this dot AV, and the direction, which should be the orientation, which should be this dot orientation times -1, right? That's pretty much it. We can have a constant for new orientation. So this dot orientation times -1, right? Because we don't need to calculate it twice to use it once. Okay, there you go. And B, it's going to be pretty much the same, though the vector over here is going to change to B. New orientation should be the same orientation as the A1. Okay, great. So now generate is created. So what we can do is also keep track of if it was generated. So we can say like, we can say this dot generated equals false by default, right? And then we can just change it to true whenever we call generate. So over here, this generated equals true. And we can also set an if condition in here, just early return if it is generated, right? So if generated, just return early, don't do anything with it. Okay, maybe we don't want to keep the toothpicks in here. We'll see, probably we'll want to eventually, but for right now, that's fine. And we will also have a show function. Sure, that's fine. So show function should just do a line between this dot av dot x, this dot av dot y, and this dot bv dot x, and this dot bv dot y, basically. We can set the stroke in here, I guess. So stroke, let's do it black. Let's do background white, and let's do stroke weight of, let's say, 2 for the moment. Okay, that's good. And then we just need one single toothpick to start with, so we'll just let initial equals null, or just don't set the value, it'll be undefined by default. And then in here, we can just say initial equals new toothpick at the midpoint being create vector being the center of the canvas, basically. So width divided by 2 and height divided by 2. And the direction doesn't matter. We'll just put 1, and we can choose which one we want, basically. Oh, and we can say as well, I've got in here, instead of doing this, we'll just do in here, we'll just do if generated, then check if A exists. So if we could say, sure, if this dot A, then call this dot A dot generate. Great, and we can do the same for B. And then we can early return in here. There we go. Okay, there we go, great. So let's see, here we can just call, oh, and yeah, that's fine. So we'll just call show at the beginning in here. So initial dot show. Okay, so we're not seeing anything. Probably there's some errors. Create vect does not exist. Yeah, vector, that makes sense. So let me just copy this, put it here. There we go. Okay, now we've got it. Okay, great. Let me close this, refresh. Okay, so we've got a line in the middle, 1 toothpick. That makes sense. Okay, so now what we'll do as well is in the show, we'll just say basically the same thing as over here. If it's generated, just check all of them and early return. Great. And don't generate, but call show. Okay, that's good. Oh, and this should be B, and I guess I messed it up as well over here. There we go. Okay, great. Now let's in here in the mouse pressed, let's call show and let's call generate. Okay, let's see. So I'm clicking, but nothing is happening. So let's see if we have any errors. Mix is not defined. Line 21. Let's see, line 21. It's mid. There we go. Okay, it's good. Let me refresh. Okay, let me click. Okay, so great. Now we'll see the issue where, well, we'll see one of the issue we have right now is it'll create a toothpick over here, which we do not want. If we take a look back at the Wikipedia page, here, you see it didn't create one in here, in the between those two. So, right there. It's a different design, I guess. It's just creating squares, but that's not what we want. So, what we need to do is check the ends. Basically, we need to check if the AV or BV intersect with any other AV or BV. Yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess. Okay, so let's see if we can do that. So over here, toothpicks. Let me add to toothpicks. Let me add to toothpicks every time I generate, right? So in here, let me do toothpicks dot push this dot A and this dot B. This dot B. The only time we'll need to do this manually will be at the initial, for the initial toothpick, basically. So toothpick dot push initial. There we go. Or we could just say toothpicks index 0 equals this, and then use that and not have the initial variable, basically. Just use the array first index as the initial variable. There we go. Okay. Currently should still work the same, so let's try it. Yes, it is. Okay, great. So now, since we're pushing that array, new toothpicks, what we can do is, let me think. Right, so over here, right, we don't want to generate A if AV intersects with any other toothpicks, basically. Any other toothpicks, AV or BV, right? So let's do both of them at once. So, okay, so for const toothpick, I'll just call it T, it'll be easier to call it afterwards, of toothpicks of the array. And here we'll do if T equals ourselves, just return or continue. And we can say here, let valid A equals true, and we'll set it to false if we find that it's not, and let valid B equals to true as well. And over here, what we'll do is if valid A, then check for A. So check if, so we can just do it in one condition here, right? So we can do it here, right? So A, we need to check if, let me do it in here, it'll be easier. So for any other, oh, we already are, give me a sec. So this T over here, you need to check if this T dot AV dot X, is there an equal function on the vector? P5 vector, or let me just search equal, P5 vector equals, great, that's exactly what I want. Is it returns true if the vector components are all the same as another vector, and false if not. Great, so we'll do that. So we'll do if T.AV dot equals this dot AV, or, and then we'll just put parentheses over here, or if same thing but with BV of the other vector, basically. And if that's the case, valid A is not valid anymore. right? Valid A equals false. Great. And then we'll do the same for B. Valid B, capital B, valid B. Over here, this is fine. The only thing we need to change here is this B, and here as well. Okay. Okay, and then we can do creation of those toothpicks only if, so here, let me move this over here. So we can say if valid A, then create and push the toothpick, and if valid B, create and push the other toothpicks, basically. Let me just format everything. Great. Let me close this as well. Doesn't need to be open. Okay, there we go. Let me see if that works. Okay, now it shouldn't create the line in between, right? Over here. That did work. Okay, let me continue and see if there's any errors. It doesn't seem like there's any, wait, let me refresh. Okay, so here it shouldn't create any, neither is it, should it create any here? Okay, that's correct. Let me see again. Okay, that's fine. Though it shouldn't create, it should create one over here, right? Yes, I think that is correct. Yeah, I think we're pretty much done. What we can do is change now the this to maybe 20, and also maybe change the stroke weight to something a little bit thicker so we can see it a little bit better, maybe 3. That's great. Sure, that's visible enough for me. And let's move this, well, we can keep it in here, but let's move it into the draw function. And let's also change the frame rate to something a lot smaller so that it generates a lot slower. There we go. There we go. I think we're pretty much done with the sketch. So it took us 30 minutes about. That's great. I'll be linking down, like I said, the video from Daniel Schiffman from the coding train, and as well the Wikipedia page for the Toothpick sequence. It's not a lengthy Wikipedia page, but at least there is the information that you need. Hopefully you can add some colors into this, right? So the further you go along in the generation, the different color it uses, right? You could use something like, let me pause this, right? So let me comment this out. Let me save. Okay. You could do something like, I'll do something, it won't be pretty for sure. Let me change the color mode to HSB, U saturation brightness, and let's move the stroke into over here, into the show function before line, and this should be basically U saturation brightness. Saturation should be 100, let's say, and brightness should be 255, I guess. I don't know what's the max value for that. It doesn't matter. And here, what we can do is keep track of the current generation, right? So we can have like let generation equals 0 by default, and then add 1 to the generation every time we call generate on this one, I guess. Technically, I would need to do it as well over here, since it's like the first well, I guess first generation could be 0. That's fine. Okay, and over here, we could, whenever we create the toothpick, we could keep track of at which generation it was generated, right? Or technically, I don't really need this generation value over here. Maybe it's better in terms of performance, but I don't really care about that. So over here, right, in the show function, we could just say gen for generation equals 0 by default, and then it's gen plus 1 every time you call this, right? Plus 1, gen plus 1, and then over here, the stroke, what we'll do, since it's 360 values for this, we'll do gen modulus 360, right? That should be right. Let me save. Let me see. Let me click a couple of times. It is changing colors actually. Great. So that's exact. So let me put back the draw loop. There we go. Let me save. So let's see. I think it is working as expected. There we go. So I think we're pretty much done. One thing you could do is maybe scale down the size of the canvas, but for you to be able to do that, you would need to redraw all of the toothpicks every time. So that's not really something I want to do because it's going to be choppy whenever you get to some big amount of toothpicks, right? So what I'd rather do is just change the length to something really small, let's say 10, and change as well the speed at which it generates to maybe, let's say 10, 2 times the speed that it's currently at. There we go. So let's give it a second. Let's also change the background to black. I think it'll look better with the brighter colors. Yeah, yellow wasn't showing really that much previously. Now we can see it, right? So you can see how it propagates now. So you can see the going diagonally from the center is going to generate first, then going from the middle. Right, you can see it here, right? The generations in the middle are going or are generating a lot slower than the generation going diagonally. Like it's faster going diagonally than going like in vertical or horizontal direction, if that makes sense. But yeah, thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Let me know down in comments below what you thought of this, what you'd like to see, if there's something different you'd like to have done. But yeah, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.